This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. Our friends over at SeatGeek are giving us a promo code of TBA Wrestling. That is TBA Wrestling for $20 off your first purchase. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Arsenal. And that we are, and it is just me, Scott, here today. And we're a little early, but there will still be an episode on Wednesday. I just wanted to get in here because, believe it or not, it has been 2 weeks since we've done an episode. And in the 3 years we've been running Gunners R Us, this is the first time we've missed a week. And not just that, we missed 2 weeks. And over on our Patreon, we took a short little gap. So the last time that you heard from us was the preview to Leeds. So the build up to Leeds and the review of Kairat. So that means since then we've obviously had the Leeds game, Chelsea, Sunderland, Brentford, and now Wigan. So I felt like I needed to get on here. Now I'm back from Florida, because basically what it was you soon realise when you're on holiday with your family, a small baby, a wife, another family with a baby, that there's no real time to actually do a podcast, especially with the limited amount of equipment we have currently. So we just took a little break, and it's nice sometimes to do that, but it means we've got all this to get back into. And obviously, if you are interested in enjoying our podcast, please check us out over on Patreon. The link is below this podcast. That will give you 4 or 5 episodes a week, including this one, Wednesday's one, ad-free, without the SeatGeek stuff or whatnot stuff, just straight podcast. And then you'll also get reviews, previews, interviews, and other bits on the Patreon. So if you like it and you want almost daily content, go to the Patreon. I think it's around £6 a month. If you go through the link below, you won't have to deal with the taxes and that. If you do sign up via the app, you sometimes have to deal with like whatever country you're in's taxes. So feel free. It might be like $10 if you're in the States. And I know a lot of our listeners are in the States, but please do that. And then we will be able to get equipment to go on abroad, and that won't stop. But next time I'm going to make sure it doesn't stop anyway. But it was a nice little gap, but it means we've got so much to get into. On Wednesday, Joe and I will kind of continue to keep getting into everything, but because we'll be doing it before the Wolves game, which is on Wednesday, and that will obviously include us talking about the North London derby for the Sunday. But over on the Patreon, we'll break down the Wolves game in a preview, a preview of the Tottenham game, a review of the Tottenham game, and then there's a good week gap between that and us playing Chelsea. So we'll still be doing Patreons pretty much every other day next week. But as for now, I'm going to get into all of this. So I'm going to start from the beginning. And I kind of, you don't necessarily want to hear me round up everything and almost chronologically talk about stuff. But I think there is some talking points that have come from all of it. It's almost too much has happened, So in the build up to the Leeds game, I think we were excited about... Not so excited. We just wanted to make sure we got back onto that winning track after the Man United loss. And we did. We were away from home. I think we won 9-0 on aggregate over 2 games with Leeds this year. Which, when you look at United drawing at Leeds, there's a lot of teams that have struggled at Ellen Road. So to go there and win 4, and we won 5-0 early on in the season. And Gyökeres seems to like scoring against Leeds. This is his 3rd goal out of our 9, so he scored a 3rd of our goals against them. We had Zubimendi, Madueke, Gyökeres, and Jesus. And if you remember, the Madueke one was the corner that went almost directly in. It got given an own goal, but eventually they made it Madueke's goal, which made it his first Premier League goal for Arsenal. So at that point, I think, we're pretty chuffed with the fact that we're back on, winning terms, because we weren't necessarily in bad form or anything, but we just, if you actually look at the fixtures prior to that, it was where we had drawn a couple games and won a couple games. So we had kind of, we'd beaten Brighton, we'd beaten Villa, we'd beaten Bournemouth. Then we had that awful 0-0 draw with Liverpool. Then we went 4-1 against Portsmouth, 3-2 against Chelsea in the Carabao, that 0-0 at Forest, and then we beat Inter 3-1. And then we lost at home to Man United, which was the big one that I think flattened us all. But then we went and won 3-2 against Kairat, and then that 4-0 against Leeds. And if you remember, it's almost like we're a two-faced team, because I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but sometimes when you play in the Carabao Cup or the later stages of the group of Champions League, and you've got things rounded up, a lot of people don't like necessarily seeing that team that you put out. I think in the past, I don't know if I'm thinking of a specific time frame of Arsenal, but you get out midfield that didn't have Song and Fabregas and Hleb and Rosicky, and I don't even know if this all ties up, but you'd kind of get Denilson. Denilson's the first player that came to my head. But you see that team, and Sano go up front, Shamak's out on a wing, Benter's out on a wing, and you're thinking, do you know what? This is such a far cry from our team. Whereas this year, it's weird because I think some of the players that are in the team that is considered the second team for those games are players that I think we all want to see. So it's been really interesting because this year, I think, when you look back, obviously, like I just did with, I think we all enjoyed that Palace at home in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. It was 1-1, we won on penalties, but I think we all kind of enjoyed that. And that was coming off the win away at Everton. And then we had the 2-1 at home to Brighton, which I think was a little bit of a, it was unnerving. Then we were unbelievable against Villa. And then we were really good against Bournemouth, but only for a spell, and we nearly threw it away to a 3-3. Then you get this weird side of Arsenal where it's 0-0, no progression, no real kind of getting forward on the front foot. And we draw 0-0 with Liverpool. And again, I do have my qualms with that game. I think that was more of a Liverpool problem than an Arsenal problem. I think they decided they weren't going to score goals, and I think they decided that we weren't going to have the ball. And then when a good team does that, there's not much you can do other than overcommit, and then they will score. So it's almost like a boxer jabbing for 9 rounds, and do you just sit there and just wait for the moment, or do you kind of swing and then he might counter and you go, it was kind of a win-win for Liverpool to an extent because they were kind of trying to stop the rod at the time. And then we go away at Portsmouth and we get that second team. I'm thinking Norgard. I think on that one it was Waneri, Eza, Madueke, Martinelli, and I think and Jesus, and I think a lot of people kind of enjoy that. Lewis Skelly back in the team, and we end up winning those 4-1. Again, this is much lesser competition, but I think we enjoy those games. And then you do the 3-2 against Chelsea, similarly, kind of a half and half team. We really enjoyed that. We won 3-2 away from home. Then we got back to our starting 11 for the Forest away in the league, and it was 0-0. And we all felt flat. And then midweek, you go away to Inter with a slightly changed team, and you win 3-1, and everyone kind of really enjoys it and goes, then we had the balance right. Then we come back in the league, get your best 11 out, you lose 3-2 at home. So then we rotate, get some players back in like Havertz, who has looked really good since coming back, which is a shame. Obviously, we'll get into that in a moment. And we go against Cairo and we win 3-2, and it's a really fun game to watch. Ironically, then, though, this is how bizarre it is because it's not a guaranteed, bad with our starting 11, good with our second 11, because that would be silly because the second 11 should become the first 11. But we put our first 11 out against Leeds, 4-0. Then we almost go strong against Chelsea, as strong as we could at home. And it becomes one of these, strange games where I think we did similar to what Liverpool did with against us, where we kind of didn't have to do much. We ended up winning that 1-0, which we'll get to in a moment. But that kind of the yin and the yang of Arsenal this year has been really interesting because I think, weirdly, and I don't know if it is circumstance of competition, because I don't know if anyone else is getting this, but that feeling of maybe less stress, less anxiety when we watch the FA Cup, Carabao Cup and Champions League this year compared to the league. It's night and day, isn't it? Like, I can't imagine it's not translating to the players because, you go into that Wigan game last night, you almost kind of relax, you walk into it, and again, they're not doing very well. They're in League One. But you rotate that team a little bit. I saw people online saying we haven't rotated. There's a team without Raya, Timber, Gabriel, Calafiori, obviously, because he ended up getting injured in the warm-up, which, again, we'll get to these injuries. No Rice, no Supermendy, no Odegaard, no Havertz, no Gyökeres. Wasn't going to be Saka. He ended up coming in for Calafiori, and Lewis Skelly moves back. And you think, yeah, that is different. It's just our squad is so good that kind of two sides of us is they're almost as good as each other almost at this point. And I think there isn't a clear better team, I don't think. Maybe certain positions. I think Saliba and Gabriel are clearly the best pairing. I think Calafiori and Timber are clearly the best fullbacks, but I think a lot of people have been really impressed with Ben White. One player that I think we have to talk about is Norgard. I think every time he's come in, and again, I don't know if it's circumstance of the games he plays in, the less pressure, the lower opposition. We look very good with Norgard in the team, and it's not that he should be keeping Zubimendi. I think Zubimendi might be the signing of the season, and that is across the board. I think from the summer, I think there's no better signing for any team in the league, in my opinion. Maybe the only close one could be Semenyo might get City over the line in January. And that was a really smart one because he just looks a real player. But Norgard is someone we need to talk about because I think he is good, and I think he's good enough that, for example, this week against Wolves, I don't think you could take anything for granted. But does he play again and gives Mendy that almost? He came on for a couple minutes last night. It gives him a proper 10 days without 90 minutes, just 20 minutes under his belt, going into the North London derby. Do you know what I mean? Like, could you start seeing those kind of things and thinking, we need to rotate that position better, because I think Zubimendi has showed signs of tiredness, and it's so good that we can rest people like Rice in those ones. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think we've all felt that kind of the stress of when you get to Premier League games. I just look forward to our next 4 games, all Premier League: Wolves away, Tottenham away, Chelsea at home, Brighton away. All of them feel like we could. I could see a world where we get 5 points out of 12 there, and I'd have City above us, 100%. It just doesn't feel. After that, you got Everton at home, Bournemouth at home, City in the final, and then City away, Newcastle at home. It's going to be such a tight run in. I don't know what's going to happen, but that stress, I don't know if that's going to be what kind of ends up kind of being our downfall in the Premier League, which is the anxiety through the crowd, through the players, through us at home. That you just feel that different stress when you watch Champions League, even if it's a big game, like when we played Bayern Munich or when we played Inter Milan. You kind of go into it going, I think we'll do all right, and we feel so comfortable. And again, in the FA Cup, we've been very lucky with Wigan and Portsmouth. Carabao Cup, we had Chelsea and all these. I felt confident going into those. So it's a really odd feeling, and you can kind of see it in the results that we have a flat one in the league, so then we back it up usually with a good win in some kind of cup. But the problem is we're getting to as they say, nut cutting time in all the cups. So what's going to happen now is, as I get my coffee, what's going to happen now is the teams are going to get better, and our team is going to get closer to our starting 11, which you could start getting some of those flatter performances as the anxiety goes up. So I think it's more to do with that than the players that are playing the games. I think it's more to do with the stress of each game. So we win that game against Leeds 4-0. And again, this is the moment where I believe City were to drop points against Tottenham, where they were 2-0 up and 2-2. And definitely shouldn't have been a goal allowed in that game for Tottenham. And it's so scary to think, because I don't think that should have been allowed. That should have been a win for City. And when you think about that, that would have them 1 point behind us right now. And that's probably fair, if we had said that they are 1 point behind us. So, we win that game against Leeds. You feel quite confident because they drop points. You start thinking, we're back in this, in the league. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. But we just got to get through this Carabao Cup semi-final. We're going into that 3-2 from the away game. We play Chelsea at home. This is such a weird game because this is a game that I was flying during. So when I landed, I checked the score and it said 0-0 half time. And I thought, I could get to Lewis's house, friend of the show, WD Elton Prince, to get that second half in. But with introductions and babies and dogs and all these things, we didn't manage to get it. But we almost turned it on for like literally 90th minute, just in time to see, essentially the Havertz, the goal that sealed the game. But it was so mad because I would Google the game, and underneath it would have maybe key moments. Just wasn't any. There was no key moments coming up, and I was thinking, God, nothing's happening. And I actually think they didn't create enough at all, Chelsea. And I think the only team that was ever going to score a goal in that game was us. Even though we were not definitely, I wouldn't say not at the races, but we definitely weren't the team pursuing the game, which, we didn't have to, they did. But interestingly enough, 97 minutes, we get that breakaway, really nice work to get away, and then Havertz gets laid in around the keeper, slots it in, and he goes to the crowd. And my God, I don't think there's anyone that hates Chelsea more than Kai Havertz, because this guy's the guy who scored in that 5-1 win and did the waka waka, and he celebrates every time he scores against Chelsea. And this one, he was kissing the badge, he was celebrating big. They said pitch invasion. It was just 3 or 4 of our subs ran on. Calafiori was on before the ball went in the goal, which is really interesting because I could have disallowed that. But yeah, Havertz scores the goal. That seals it. There's a very fun video of John Terry watching the last 5 minutes of that game, thinking Chelsea were going to nick it and take it extra time, just for him to watch us win, essentially, for sure. But we can't. The thing we got to talk about is the last 3 years we've come second, and I think with that has come a lot of quarterfinals of the Champions League, quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. I mean, we got out early in the FA Cup a lot. We've got further this year than we have for the last 2 years in the FA Cup already. And in the Carabao Cup, obviously, last year, we got to a semi-final. In the Champions League, we got to a semi-final. Got completely outplayed by Newcastle over 2 legs last year in the Carabao. And then PSG, I wouldn't say completely outplayed, but I mean, they were the deserving winners of the tie. And we came second, we kind of, that we were one hurdle away from the prize, if you know what I mean. Couldn't hit a final last year, couldn't get the first place. We were nowhere near first place, but we were second anyway in the league. But this year's about kind of, I think there's mental obstacles. I remember that game against Porto where we hadn't won a knockout game in whatever it was, like 10 years or something in the Champions League. And we needed to get that game won, and it was a real struggle, even though it shouldn't have been. And it kind of was almost like a mental voodoo. And then we against Bayern Munich, we failed. Then this year, obviously, we played in the group stage, very different to a knockout. But we've overcome that demon as well a little bit. You beat them. The Carabao Cup, we haven't really taken it seriously for many. Like, Wenger never won it. We haven't won it since '93, I believe. This is not a cup that we've kind of done much. 2011, he got to us to a final. We lost it to Birmingham. It's been a trophy that I feel like over the years we probably should have taken a little more seriously when we were coming 4th, 5th, 6th, even 8th. Because it's one that I think you can kind of bumble to a quarters, then you can kind of stiffen up and see if you can get that final. And it's ironic that since I think '93, I think this is our second final in this cup, which is 33 years. It's mad because it's there for the taking every year for any of the traditional top 4 or top 6, whatever you want to say. But here we are. We've got over that line. However we did it, 4-2 on aggregate against a good team like Chelsea. City absolutely destroyed Newcastle. But the interesting thing about the game, and it's interesting about a lot of City games, is they're allowing other teams a lot more chances than we are. And that part of it, I think, makes it really interesting because on any day, I think those chances go in. Against Newcastle, I want to say they were 4-1 up at one point on aggregate, and Newcastle missed maybe 2 open goals. They missed 1-on-1. And you think, my word, like any other day that they're a bit more clinical. They're in trouble there, and even though the tie looks done, and I think maybe that is also why they were kind of more sloppy, was maybe because they felt the tie was done. But you do kind of. It is a running theme with City, and I think it's some of their defensive issues. Mark Gahey's obviously helped them sort that out a little bit. Semenyo has pretty much started every single game for the City, so Pep really likes him, and he's rewarding him with goals. I mean, he's scored more goals than Haaland since he's come in. But we get through it, and City obviously get through Newcastle. It's a Man City Arsenal Carabao Cup final. I think that's going to be. We talk about mental edges, like us trying to get to a final, not losing at the final hurdle, like we have done the last couple of years. That one's going to be interesting because that is, I think, 2 weeks before we play them in the league, and I think there's got to be a mental edge of us. Who wins that game? Some people could look at it and go, probability-wise, someone's probably not going to win that and then win the other. But I also think there's an element of you give that positivity, like we're better, we beat them. Whoever wins, they feel better than the other team, and they can kind of take that into the league and stride through to the end, basically. So that was interesting. Very happy with the result. I feel like at the start of this episode I said I wasn't going to chronologically go through it and break it all down, but I feel like I'm not deeply diving in. I just want to kind of touch on all these. So we get to the weekend. This is the Saturday, the 7th of Feb. I watched this in America because the 3 o'clockers, there's no blackout. And just a solid win, Sunderland, not very good away from home compared to their home record. We'd already dropped 2 points technically against them in the league at the Stadium of Light. But again, Gyökeres comes on, I think 60 minutes, scores a 30-minute brace. Zubimendi been unlocking teams early doors, and that was a really nice, like kind of a daisy cutter to the near post and in. Because that game, by about 40 minutes, I thought, this is looking like one of those, get 60 minutes 0-0, the crowd start booing, the other team score, 70 minutes, 1-0, trying to rescue a point. if it had that, it stunk of that basically. So we're sitting there, and Zumendi long, we need to shoot more from distance for sure, and they certainly need to be better at it. But this one was unbelievable. That, like I said, the daisy cut to the near post, posting in, breaks open that game. Second half, I think Sunderland started to really get in there, and I thought Robbery did an amazing job up against Saliba. Dare I say the most shaky Saliba's looked against any forward in the last couple of years, I'd say, was Robbery. But eventually Gyökeres gets a goal, and he seals it at the end with 94 minutes to make it 3-0, and that's where he does the celebration on the floor. And can I just talk about the tackle that came in on him during that one? I cannot believe that was, not looked at. I know that the goal went in. If they look at it and they send him off, do they have to remove the goal and give a penalty? I don't know the ruling, but it was probably one of the worst tackles I've seen. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he's just trying to block the shot." It's not that. He's not trying to block the shot. He's just frustrated, And luckily, Gyökeres is a lump. He's a big lad. It seemed to not bother him at all. But I mean, if you think of Isaac breaking his ankle early in the season was something similar, but this is thigh height. This is his whole body weight going on his knee. Absolutely unneeded, and I don't know how that wasn't kind of retrospectively looked at in some capacity. But in the game, when you look at it, we actually only had 14 shots and 5 on target. They had 4-2. They had better possession over the game, and we had pretty much the same amount of passes. So the game looks amazing, and weirdly, I think this season the games we've been better at are the ones in which we're not 100% in control of. We're not the ones with 800 passes. This is 350 to 350 basically. Sometimes you look at it's 800 to 200, 800, 300, and it's 0-0. Probably that Liverpool game was something similar, but then with the more passes. Sometimes these are the games that actually we end up winning 3-0. The ones in which we are total control, it is like 1-0 or a 0-0 or sometimes a loss. So good to see that. And this is when I believe that was when Liverpool had to play City at Anfield. I believe it was same week. Let me check. Yes. And City, huge win. They go 1-0 down. They don't look. They were not in the game for 75, 80 minutes. And then Bernardo Silva gets that goal. It goes to 1-1. Liverpool have a couple chances to win it. They end up giving away a penalty, which, come on. Now, I'll accept it simply because I think they were a little bit robbed of the Tottenham one. But he's going nowhere. He knocks that ball past the keeper. And you look back at maybe Gyökeres at Newcastle this year. They said he knocked it away from the keeper. He was going away from goal. It's not a penalty, not even a booking, not a penalty. He just smashes it off out of the pitch. He's almost over the line before the goalie makes any contact. It's a clear penalty if it stays in bounds, but I just don't know. I don't know if that's enough to be a penalty. But Haaland scores it, and then later on there's that really interesting, bizarre moment with Szoboszlai and Haaland where I can't remember who it is. It might. I can't remember exactly who it is, but they shoot from distance. It might be Cherky. From in their own half, because Alisson's up and Alisson's given up on getting back, and Haaland's essentially just running through to kind of tap it in. Szoboszlai gives him a good tug back, it's a clear red card, but Haaland stays on his feet, and then Szoboszlai kind of because of that tug gets in front of him. Haaland tugs him back, then they both kind of fall and the ball just rolls into the empty net, so it's Cherky's goal. And I think, I do get the two arguments, because in the end what they did is they VAR'd it, they removed the goal and they sent off Szoboszlai, which I think by the letter of the law, I think you have to. I think. If Haaland doesn't foul him back, I think you let it go, because like an advantage. But because he fouls him back, it's a clear foul, because it wouldn't have gone in. If Haaland doesn't foul him back, Szoboszlai clears it and it is a red card. So, do you know what I mean? I don't know if you do just kind of let common sense prevail, and Liverpool are missing Szoboszlai for 3 games. You do wonder why, it is. I just think it's interesting. I think it's a really tough one to watch. But I think when you're in a Premier League title race that we've seen in the last 10 years has come down to goal difference, I don't think you can just go, do you know what, let's call it that sense. And then Szoboszlai also, think of the teams that are playing Liverpool in the next few weeks, they could do with Szoboszlai not playing. And by letter of law, he shouldn't be playing. So I think they had to do it, but it does feel a bit, I don't know. I don't know. It is tough. It's a tough one. And if you remember as well, there's some other controversies. Romero got sent off, got 4-match ban for a second red card for almost one of those kind of follow through kind of tackles. And then you see the exact same thing in the Arsenal Sunderland game, and you just think within hours you can almost see the exact same tackle twice and no one does anything. And then you think of City eventually go and play Fulham, I think it is, before we play Brentford on the Wednesday. We played them on Brentford on Thursday. They played them on the Wednesday. And you see that Foden tackle on Bassi where he kind of jumps on his ankle, kind of studs on the ankle and pushes down. I don't know if it's just one of those he's not looking and he's just trod on it and it looks worse. And because Bassi's foot is naturally moving forward, it pulls him with him. So it looks like he's almost like pushing down. I don't know if it's a bit of an optical illusion, but it does look like a clear red. And when you look at Romero's one, you want the Sunderland, you then think, and that could have changed the game. But I don't know. I think if anything, if the right decisions were made, I think City would have beaten Tottenham 2-1. And I think they would have drawn 1-1 with Liverpool. In the end, they end up winning 1-2-1 and drawing the other one 2-2. So same amount of points, based on decisions. So anyone that's sitting there looking at decisions and going, I don't know, these things happen. And then we get onto the Brentford game, and this is where this game literally ended as I was boarding my flight back. Bit of a stressful one because I think Brentford are so much better than what people are kind of giving them credit. Like they are 7th in the league currently. They're only 2 points less off than Liverpool. They've won the same amount of games as Liverpool. They've won the same amount of games as Man United, Chelsea, and Liverpool. This is a good season. They're technically, mathematically safe. And you just look at it and you think, I don't know. And I watched the highlights and it is interesting. I think they were the aggressors. I think they did a really good job of kind of like nullifying set pieces and kind of using, using set pieces to their advantage with obviously a manager that is a former set piece coach. You'd expect that. But they did a really good job of kind of like blocking off lanes and when their set pieces doing what we do really well. So all the credit to them. I think they've been just good in general. And I think they just decided, you know what, we're going to have them. And they tried, they 11 shots to 7 to them, and 3 shots on target to 2 to them. But again, like I was saying earlier, we had the 60 to 40 possession. We had 500 to 280 passes pretty much. Our accuracy was 10% better. You look at that and you think, you look at the stats of this and you look at the stats of Sunderland, you kind of think, oh, you probably beat Brentford but lost to Sunderland in some capacity. But it's the other way, It's a really hard one to gauge because it's a game in which I don't think you would expect us to have had more possession because it felt like Brentford were quite dominant. I think they could have easily won this game. Probably should have to an extent. I don't think anyone should probably win any game because you either win or you don't. But they were very good. Really good save from Raya, from I think it was Thiago. But then last, Madueke scores an unbelievable header, really. One you don't expect him to score. And then that'll be 2 and 3 in the Premier League goals. And he gets a really nice goal on 61 minutes. And then we only hold the lead for 10 minutes. It's a long throw. So shout out to the Friday Night Football when Brentford first came up where everyone danced on us. But flick on, header. There's a lot of manhandling going on. I'm not someone who's going to sit here and say that's unacceptable. I'm not someone who's going to say anything and I also don't believe that we're as physical as people think we are on corners and set pieces. When we watch nearly all our goals this year from set pieces, the other team are doing more than what we're doing. There is like blocking lanes and stuff, but there's no one clearly holding. There's none of that. This one there is a lot going on. But again, like I said, I think I like the Premier League having teams that are utilising things that they benefit from. This is something that Brentford are doing really well. They could become almost a modern Stoke, stayed in the league for a long time with that long throw. They're doing a great job with it, and they get back into the game. And they could win it late on, but I think we could win it late on. And this is the second time this season that Martinelli could have us 4 points better off than we are right now, which would be so beneficial right now. And I think before I used to say this is the difference between top teams and not, does Semenyo put those goals away? Yeah. But we've also bought Trossard, we bought Madueke, we've bought Eze, we've bought all these players to play. It's our choice to play Martinelli, and I'm not saying Martinelli's bad because, he's potentially our top goal scorer this year. I don't fully know without looking. But it's it's one of those you look at and you go, we need to finish that, but we have all the firepower to do it. It's now just on them. It's not. Whereas before, I think when we did have Saka, Martinelli, and the backups were really just, I don't know, Willian, Smith Rowe. You kind of thought, well, we do have a leg to stand on that argument. But I think now it's like, that could have been Eze, that could have been Madueke, that could have been Trossard, and we'd all sit here and go, oh, they would have, Eze would have put that away. But he wasn't there, and he didn't, and he hasn't been. This was a game in which he got hooked at half time, and rightly so as well. I mean, I'm a big, like a Gyökeres, I'm a big Eze defender, and I really like the player, and I want him to do really well. And I wanted him in the team. That was not good enough that first half, and I think Odegaard comes on and does much better in that position. And again, it's, I think, different combinations in the team, different circumstances, different games. But I mean, that completely passed him by. He had the same touches as Gyökeres, he's probably the most low touch player in our team. So when you look at it like that, you think, yeah, rightly so. Odegaard ends up getting hurt later on. I think he kind of clears the ball and his knee kind of gets a little bit turned around, or maybe like bent. It reminded me a lot, unfortunately, of that Cazorla one. That last time we saw Cazorla play, where he had the knee injury, it ended up becoming an ankle injury later on, and then we never really saw him again. It was against Norwich, I believe, away, and he kind of clears the ball, and the guy's foot kind of catches his knee, so his leg almost bends the wrong way. It reminded me of that, and which is really worrying. And another list on the injury list, because we've managed to compile a nice injury list again, and a lot of people are talking about how Tottenham can't compete with the amount of injuries they get, and you're talking about all these teams. I mean, we're in the top 3 most injuries this year. The first half of the season was absolutely blighted with injuries, and we just happened to sneak through. We've had a patch of about 3 weeks where it started to look like the team were together, and all of a sudden there's no players. There is no one. Not no one, but the availability is getting low. I mean, we saw Saka in the 10 yesterday, and we'll get to that now. So 1-1, Martinelli could win it. He doesn't. I'd say it's a fair result. I think we've got no real arguments, dare I say, with that, in my opinion. I think it is just what it is, and it's unfortunate. But that leaves us there, 4 points ahead of City. 4 points is nothing, especially when we still got to go to the Etihad. We've got Wolves on the horizon, which will be a game in hand in the league. And I'll get to that on the Patreon later in the week and on our main feed on Wednesday. But once Joe's in here, I can kind of get his kind of take on the whole thing. But the game in hand thing's going to be really interesting, because we will get to that in a future pod. But we've been in situations in title races where we've always had a game in hand, and sometimes where we haven't had a game in hand, and the other team have. And there's a mental thing that comes with it, because you win that game, and then you win against Tottenham. We are 7 points clear every week. You just keep maintaining it, even though they got that game in hand. And does that pressure get to City where they oh God, we have to win that game now? Or do they see it as like, oh no, it's all right, we got that game in hand. And if we do drop points, they're like, oh, if we got that game in hand in the other game, we're top now. So there's such a mental kind of thing that goes with that, and we're going to have to be prepared for that. But this weekend was the FA Cup, Mansfield, and I think another knockout of a Premier League team. City made their way through Salford, didn't look convincing, and my God, they need to make their mind up on who's cup tied and who isn't. Mark Gahey got knocked out by Mansfield, right? About a month ago. He now scores a second goal in the Man City one. Then in the Carabao Cup, there were certain players that couldn't play because they were cup tied, but some that could. It's very confusing, but I don't fully understand the rules. I think it's something to do with if it's beyond the semi-finals, they can or something, but then the FA Cup, I don't know what happened there. So it is what it is. I don't actually understand it. Other than that, I think Newcastle went through against Villa. Villa, that unbelievably bad red card from their keeper. Just flying out, and I don't know how Newcastle were 3-on-1 essentially from a Villa corner. And I mean, Villa are known for their set pieces, like us with their set piece coach. That can't be right? Like the one clearance and the other team are 3-on-1. It seems awfully suspect to me. And the pitch over at the Wolves game was unbelievable as well, if you haven't seen that. But we played Wigan yesterday at 4:30. And the ironic part about all these games is Leeds game, couldn't watch it. It was a 3:00 in England before I left. Then Chelsea was on a flight to America, missed it. Sunderland watched a 3:00. Brentford on a flight. Wigan, we were wrestling during the game. We had it on our phone backstage. We won our tag titles back at Explosion at the Neon Newport every single Sunday. Please check us out. But we had to watch this on the phone, and it was really nice because when we pulled up to the show, I think we went 1-0. We got into the show, it went 2-0. We sat on the chairs in the audience, and it went 3-0. Talked to a couple people, walked backstage, it went 4-0, and then I kind of turned my phone off at half time for a period to kind of sort out wrestling and all that kind of stuff. Turned it back on about 70 minutes and just had it on while sat backstage, and it was kind of relaxing. So therefore, I've had to watch the extended highlights to kind of really make sure I've taken in all the key points. But again, FA Cup 4th round, so important to just kind of keep chipping away. Tonight is the draw, which is going to be really interesting because this is the one. This is where you could start getting some big teams, or you get some, interesting, fun games. I really would love a Wrexham at the Emirates. I think personally is one of my favourites there. You kind of want to avoid probably Newcastle away, City away, Liverpool away. They're the games I'd say we're trying to avoid. But this one was interesting. I think Ezra came in with a point to prove, and I don't know. There's the thought we didn't. Does he hate Ezra? These things. I don't think so. I think he did get a little bit reprimanded for letting Matty Cash go, but I think he also wasn't in that game like he wasn't again. And I think he has the ability to either be, like you saw this week, completely on the outskirts of a game. Like, shouldn't be. In a number 10 role, you should never be on the outskirts. Dare I say Odegaard's problem is he's sometimes too on the ball sometimes in games and doesn't sit and wait, Whereas Ezra will wait 5 hours if he has to for that ball in the right pocket. But you see the yin and the yang of this, and this is kind of a two-faced Arsenal, isn't it? Hooked at half-time because he wasn't in the game. This game, he was just running the game. The only thing he was short of was a goal. But in the first half, he slides Madueke through. It was one of the best through balls of the year. Madueke, in form, finishes it. I think he's got like 5-6 goals now for Arsenal. Really starting to find his feet again. And he looked really good at the start when Asaka was injured. The interesting part of this game, obviously, was we finally going to see Lewis Skelly in the midfield. Calafuri gets injured during the warm-up. Third one this year that we've lost someone during the warm-up. Calafuri twice. Saka once. Saka has to come in on the interior, playing kind of essentially one of 2 10s with Ezra. Lewis Skelly has to move back. And then, Ezra, and maybe this is something we need to see more, is maybe 2 more attacking players in the midfield. Maybe we'll see more Saka in this position. And then shortly after that, Martinelli gets put through with another lovely through ball from Ezra, on this time on the left-hand side. He finishes it really well. And Martinelli definitely having one of his better seasons as far as finishing, which is ironic after that Brentford miss. Shortly after that, I think Madueke puts Saka down the right. Saka pulls it back. Jesus gets a little touch, makes it difficult to the defender who puts it in his own goal. OG, our top goal scorer of the year, takes another one. And then shortly after that, Norgard, this is 27 minutes, it goes 4-0, and you think this could be anything. I remember Joe saying that to me at the match, at the wrestling. He said, this could be any scoreline. This is, they're scoring every time they go forward. And I say, or it's that typical football thing where they just go from 5th gear to 3rd gear and just go, we're going to win this 4-0. And they might get one, and it was kind of walk into one maybe, but maybe not. But the clinicalness stops all of a sudden, and that's exactly what it was. But Norgard, who was man of the match, over the top, perfect ball to Jesus, great finish, little chip over the keeper. After that, I think Gyökeres came on second half. Saka, we saw Saka went off. We saw Salmon come on, which was really good. Who else did we see? Who came on? Zumeni eventually had to come on, which is a little bit unfortunate. Jesus was basically playing number 10 by the end. It was a very odd game as far as that, but also very fun. Gyökeres could have got one. He hit that post, unbelievable kind of near post effort. I think he was desperate to get one because he's been in good form. I think he's at 14 goals or assists for Arsenal this season now, out of about 28 games, something like that. So it's kind of like 1-in-2 ratio now. I think he's looking at some of these games. Like if he'd started that game in that first half, I think he gets 2 or 3. But he needs to boost some of his numbers just so people kind of leave him alone. I think he started to. This would have been nice, but he seems to always be given the short end of a stick. We get Mansfield at home next time. He'll come on for 10 minutes to go when the rest of the team gets changed and we're not trying to score goals. And other guys like Martinelli got 3 in the first half or something like that. But there was that. Ezra had a couple of really nice efforts, could have scored, but the only real talking point is injuries. Nice little moment as well with Kepa going off, who played really well, made a really good save in the first half when there was kind of a deflection, kind of put Wigan player in. He made a nice save, but Tommy Setford getting minutes at the Emirates, and you can see how happy Kepa was for him. And it's similar to Norgard afterwards saying that it's an absolute pleasure to play for Arsenal. There's no frustration on his end. I think there's a really good feeling in the club. I think the only people we kind of worry about is a little bit Madueke, just because I think naturally he has a certain vibe that you think maybe he's always agitated. And the other one is Eza. I think that's the one we're worrying about. And I think if you spoke to Eza, I think he's fine. I think. But Norgard, Setford, Kepa, all these guys, they're really happy just to be a part of it. Lewis Skelly, when Aries out on loan, it's a shame De Zerbi's gone. But there seems to be a good vibe in the club generally. But it does feel... I always feel like we're one big moment. Because, all season we've had weird games. We've backed them up with really good performances in other cups. I feel like we're getting to a point now where you can't just get a little freebie, because everything's getting to that end bit that I think we're like a string of games away from the whole thing crumbling down and everyone kind of disagreeing or falling out or something happening in the club. I don't know. And that's what worries me. Or it's not, maybe we're just on the verge and we're going to come back down. But that's how I feel. But 4-0 against Wigan. We're in the draw tonight. We had 17 shots, 6 on target, scored 4. They had 2 shots on target, 2 on target. 2 shots, 2 on target. We had nearly 80% possession, which is pure domination. That's quite a lot. Again, they're not doing great this season. They are, I think, 15th, 16th in League One. So we should comfortably win that. But those have kind of been the games that we've missed here on the podcast. Again, we've never missed a week in 3 years. And since the Patreon started, obviously I've been putting 3 or 4 episodes up a week. But we're back because I'm back from Florida and I'm raring to go. This has been on the main feed. It's also going to be on the Patreon. If you want that Patreon, please go below. It's going to be kind of every other day, maybe every day. But a lot of content going over there. So, if you're driving to work, you go to gym a lot and you like our podcast, it might be a nice little accompaniment because every day you're going to get something pretty much. You always can go, because I'm a fan of the Arsecast, Arsenal Vision and stuff like that. And ideally for me, someone who listens to Arsenal, watches Arsenal and kind of engulfed by Arsenal, is I always like having a little bit of Arsenal somewhere every day. Because sometimes you wake up there and you go, I really need to kind of get my fix of what's going on or just hear someone talk about it. And I can't find it. So this is what we're here doing here at Gunners Are Us podcast. A couple of things I want to do before we get out of here is just look at the league table. Let's have a little look at the league table. I've clicked on the Winter Olympics. We are played 26, won 17, drawn 6, lost 3. No one else has lost 4 or 3 games. Only people have lost 5 are Man United and City, which is Man United. Interesting. They're both drawn 5 as well. Oh no, Man United drawn 9, which has been their big issue. If they turn a couple of draws into wins, 4 or 5 points better off, I think they'd be third, and chasing down City and us, I think. So it's really interesting, the Man United concept. The relegation battle looks really fun because between, I think, Burnley and Wolves, even with Burnley getting a win, I don't think there's not much to write home about. I don't think they're getting out of trouble. But West Ham's an interesting one. They're 18th. They're 3 points behind Forest. And then by the way, Tottenham is 16th. They came 17th last year. This is not a bad year. This is a consistent thing happening. So they're 5 points off the relegation. Leeds are 6 points. Brighton are 7. Palace are 8. I think anyone from 13th down could go down. And I'm not even excluding Tottenham. And I know we've got them this week. But FA Cup is the other thing I want to check out. Which teams are available or left, sorry. Tonight we have Macclesfield versus Brentford. Were Macclesfield the team that knocked out... I think they were the team that knocked out Palace, weren't they? And they got Brentford at home. Because Mansfield is still in it as well. Let me have a look who's left today. Ironically, Port Vale Bristol is on the 3rd of March, and that's the FA Cup. 4th round. 3rd of March. That's in nearly 3 weeks. How interesting. And it was Grimsby pitched. It wasn't great. So I know. I'm just kind of all over the place. I'm just kind of having a look. So it's the round of 16 is the draw tonight. These are the teams left: Liverpool, Fulham, Sunderland, Southampton, Wrexham, Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, Mansfield, Norwich, Port Vale or Bristol City, Wolves, Newcastle, Man City, Macclesfield or Brentford, and then Leeds United. I mean, in there, like I said earlier, I think the teams you've got to avoid. I'll make this longer. Liverpool away or home, Sunderland away, Chelsea away, Newcastle away, Man City home or away. I think if we hit Fulham, Southampton, Wrexham, West Ham, Mansfield, Norwich, Port Vale or Bristol, Wolves, Macclesfield or Brentford or Leeds, home or away, we should be okay. We just got to avoid those opportune, those combinations of home/home and away. But who knows? It's such a it's a bit of a crapshoot, isn't it, with the FA Cup? You just don't know what you're going to get. But I really would love a Wrexham at home. I think that's the fixture I really want to see. Either way, Joe and I will be back on Wednesday for our normal episode. Please check us out, obviously, on Whatnot, Peppercorn Sports Cards. We've got a huge single show. I've just come back from America. I've got a little collection with me currently, I'd say, including some really nice Arsenal cards. Over on the Patreon, link below. Sign up for that, and obviously with the Patreon is an opportunity to win an Arsenal graded card every single month, because we'll do a little raffle between the patrons. So you're not just, you sign up. You month one, you might win that raffle, and you might win a 50, 60, 100 quid card with a graded Arsenal card. And then the other things to watch us: Peppercorn Boys is our other podcast. Go check it out on YouTube and iTunes and Spotify. And that's about it. Gunners Are Us here on iTunes, Spotify. Give us a 5-star review, download our episodes, and the Patreon. And over on TikTok, we do daily Arsenal content. Again, I missed about 10 days worth because I just kind of had a full revive. I got an 8-month-year-old. I've been doing 4 or 5 podcasts a week at the minute. 2 TikToks a day. I thought, what, let's just enjoy the sun, and I have. So I'm back, but I'm raring to go, and I can't wait to talk about the Wolves game, get Joe's perspective, and over on the Patreon, review that Wolves game, and then get excited for that North London derby, the most feared game of the year for me, away at Tottenham. And no matter how bad a form, no matter how you don't know the manager, you just don't know what you're going to get, especially from this current Arsenal team, which is funny to say when we've lost 3 games in all competitions. Which is just crazy. 3 games in about 36. So here we are. Anyway, we'll see you on Wednesday. Please check us out. All right, bye.